Hello everyone, it's your boy Jeff, and we're back in the spin zone after a too long absence. I know, but to make up for it, this is going to be the biggest spin zone ever. I have 16 records to show you, dating back a couple of months probably since the last time I did one of these. October has been, at least the first part of October has been kind of hellish work-wise. You know, it is what it is. Like always, things never change. So we're just going to get right to the records. So for those of you who are watching, I appreciate you. Thank you. So we're going to start with Super Session by Mike Bloomfield, Al Kooper, and Stephen Stills. This is one that I'd been after for a while. I used to have this in another life, or I should say my ex used to have this record. So I was well familiar with it, and I wanted a copy of my own, and I landed a Columbia 2i early pressing, which is in really nice shape. Sounds great, and the music is great. And for those of you who watch my videos, I'm sure you're already sort of familiar with this. I've seen it around the VC and around the social medias in the past. That's a classic. Their cover of Season of the Witch is sublime. So a great record to have in any collection. The Super Session from Bloomfield, Kooper, and Stills. I'll set these over here. And then we're going to be all over the map here. Some record store day stuff. This one is from last year, I believe. This is Pearl Jam Unplugged. I was able to land this on the eBays for just slightly over, cover price. So I was pretty happy about that. And I'm really coming to enjoy Pearl Jam more and more now that I'm taking the time to actually listen to them beyond their radio hits that they've had in the past. So this one covers, this was done in 1992. So this basically covers, the 10 album pretty much. So for those of you who like 10 and you want to hear it live, get Pearl Jam Unplugged. Another record store day pickup. Triple album. This is Chicago, the Blues Today. This was a series of 3 albums that came out in the mid to late 60s. And I'd been after these records for a long time. Lost out on a bunch of auctions on eBay and wasn't able to just find them, a nice condition copy for a nice condition price. But this was a record store day reissue, and I was lucky enough to have my friend Tim over at High Noon's Vinyl snag me a copy, and I sent him the money for it, and he sent it to me. So really glad to have this in my collection. It's the cover photo, it kind of gives you an idea of what the sound is like on this record, because riding the L in the dead of winter in Chicago gives you this cold alien feeling at times in certain places of the ride, which you have to be kind of tough to deal with it sometimes. And the Chicago blues sound, especially in the 60s, is tough. It's harder edged, electric. It's not the jazzy, jivey stuff, or it's more urban, obviously coming from Chicago. And it features, Junior Wells, J.B. Hutto, Otis Spann, Otis Rush, you know, a few that I've never heard of before, but all of these artists are great, and this is a great set. So really stoked to finally have this in my collection. And thank you once again, Tim, for snagging this for me. Love this. And another record store day pickup is Bobby Gentry. The Windows of the World. Last year, the reissue of her second album, The Delta Suite, was one of my favorite spins. I just adore her voice. I adore her singing, her style. And this album is even more intimate than the Delta Suite even was. It's pretty much just her accompanying herself with acoustic guitar and singing. It's really great stuff if you like this sort of thing. Like, she has a deep, soulful voice. The songs are just immaculate. This is a great album to put on, you know, if you're wanting to chill. Even if you just want to feel good. Sometimes I need that. We all need that. I've become a big fan of Bobby Gentry. And when I saw this on the Record Store Day list from earlier this year, it was actually the only thing I was able to get myself with, you know, no one else's help. And if you find these on eBay, they're fairly cheap. So highly recommended. I can't recommend her highly enough. And if you really want to hear her with a band, get the reissue of the Delta Suite. You will not regret it. Or at least I don't think you will. Dwight Twillie's solo album, just self-titled, called Twillie, is up next. I'd found this at a record store in Oak Park earlier this year, and I finally gave it a spin. Of course, it's a promo copy, and it's got a big old hype sticker on the front. Here's the back. I think this is his second or third solo album. Don't quote me. But it's very much along the same lines as his first album, Truly Don't Mind. That's what it's called, right? Right. It's been a while since I've spun this, so I'm trying to remember. But if you like power pop, this is the guy to see right here and listen to. Become a big fan of Dwight Twillie over the last year or two. And yeah, it's the corner's cut on this copy. I mean, it wasn't, the record itself is in really nice shape, so I'm cool with that. Then we're gonna do a 180 and show King Crimson's Red next. This was an album that I picked up a couple of years ago. It's been a long time crate resident. This is the 200 gram reissue. I'd long been wanting to get this album, and when I finally did, it unfortunately became a victim of my record crate. So I was looking for something different to listen to one day, so I pulled this and I finally spun it. It's not your easy listening type of music. You know, again, this is a fairly intense album. Can't say I understand all of it. I'm not as into prog as some of you out there. I enjoyed it, but yeah, it felt like I felt like my mind was like being stretched listening to it, because it's intense in its own way, in its musicality and instrumentation. I mean, these guys are pros, so they are definitely into their sound, and this is widely regarded as one of King Crimson's best records. And I agree, it's very good. I just can't really explain it any better than that. It's not like I can give some kind of a treatise on this thing. Sorry for all the glare. It's from all of these bags that they're in, but very enjoyable listen. And yeah, that's about all I can say. Man, I'm out of practice at making videos. Then we're gonna do another 180 from that, and show this album by Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble. It's Soul to Soul Live. It's a classic 1985 broadcast recording. The quality on this one is not as good as the other bootleg of his I've got based on a radio broadcast called Blues You Can Use. This one is just okay. It's not as clear sounding as Blues You Can Use. So if you're looking for a better quality recording, get that one. If you're a completist like me, and I mean I didn't hear this beforehand, so I was only slightly disappointed by the sound. Still a good show. It came from his Soul to Soul tour. Not my favorite SRV album, but the playing on it is good. It's just the sound quality, it's just eh. So mixed review on this one. But I'm kind of a Stevie Ray completist, so anytime I see a bootleg like this and I don't have it, I'm gonna buy it anyway. Just because. Then legendary Jim gifted me with the new album from Matthew Sweet called Cat's Paw. Gave this a spin. This was produced by Matthew Sweet, who played all the instruments himself except the drums. Great album. The only knock I would put on this album is that the tracks kind of all started to sound the same after a while. They're all the same pace, they're all the same rhythm, tempo. They're all kind of like mid-gear heavy rockers. There's like nothing really fast on here or nothing too slow, kind of in the middle. But he sings great. And I mean, I'm a fan of Matthew Sweet no matter what. But by the time I got to the middle of side 2, I was starting to get some listener fatigue. I can't lie. So, but that's just my opinion. To me, everything started to sound the same after a while. And I mean, if it's just him doing the instruments, I mean, you're not going to get the same kind of dynamic as playing in a band. So, it's an admirable feat to do it all yourself. Still a good record. I mean, there's a lot of good songs on here, especially on side 1, but maybe don't listen to the entire thing all at once. Maybe play a few songs and then take a break, listen to something else, and then come back and play a few more. Just my opinion, but still a good record, and I'm still a fan of Matthew Sweet, without a doubt. Also a fan of Curtis Mayfield. This is his solo album, Curtis. Picked up this reissue earlier this year, and it's fantastic, just like just about everything else Curtis Mayfield does. Move On Up is the big hit that most everyone should be familiar with. But the lead-off track, Don't Worry If There's a Hell Down Below, We're All Gonna Go. I think that was, I don't know if that was a single release, but I definitely heard that song before. So this was another long time resident of my want list, and I came across it in a record store. Even though it's a reissue, I really didn't care. Originals of this are going for stupid money, so I'll take the reissue. It sounds great, and it makes me happy. So we love Curtis. I know I love Curtis. Then I filled a hole in my U2 collection. Got their first album, Boy. And the only album of theirs that I don't have from the 80s is War. And I used to have it, but I lost it in a move, of course. Someday I will reacquire a copy, but this was the other album of theirs that I did not own. So I did make a trip to Beverly Records over the summer. Found this there. It was, for a decent price. So I grabbed it. It's U2. I Will Follow is the big hit off of this, but listening to the rest of this album is, pretty darn good if you ask me. So you can't go wrong with U2 in the 80s. To me, anyway. Then, earlier this month, like around the beginning of the month, Cora and I did a little road trip. And we visited Riverbend Records, which is the record store owned and operated by Billy Hurst. We stopped in there. I met Billy. Couldn't have been nicer. I posted pictures on Facebook and walked out with a pile of records, spent a shit ton of money. Easily could have spent more. His record store is filled with just about anything you would want. And he was telling me that he's actually going to be expanding his racks. He's going to be adding more record bins here in the near future. So he's got a great stock. He's got a great supply of records, new and old. And my wife actually surprised me with this. This is a first pressing 6i Columbia of Miles Davis' Sketches of Spain. I left a sticky note on the cover. As you can see, the cover is in wonderful condition, except for someone wrote a number on it. But other than that, this cover is in mint condition. And I got to pull this record and show you because this is the best original condition 6i that I own, without a doubt. I know the camera usually makes these records look better than they are, but trust me, this record is flawless. It looks like it is brand new. And it plays like it's brand new too. The vinyl is dead quiet. There's not a speck of dust on this thing. There's not a crackle. There's not a pop. It is purely quiet. And this album has a lot of quiet passages in it. So if the vinyl has any kind of a flaw, it's going to be revealed by, the quieter passages, but there's none. This is probably one of the best condition records I own for its age. This came out in 1960? Yeah, 1960. It looks like it was bought today. So I saw it on the Holy Cow wall in Billy's store, and my wife surprised me with it. So I love her. And this is a fantastic album. For those of you who are into jazz, you already know Sketches of Spain is a wonderful record, and I'm honored to have this in my collection. So that was pretty darn cool. Nirvana, Nevermind, had celebrated their 30th anniversary earlier this year. So I had this reissue that I got for Christmas last year, I believe. So I finally spun it in honor of the anniversary of this album. Really, this album is front-loaded with all the hits. Basically, all of side one is everything you know off of the radio of this album. And then side two wasn't as familiar with, but it was still great. It's Nirvana, it's Nevermind, it's a classic, so say what you will about them. I think they're pretty darn good too. Then, the rest of these records all came from Riverbend, part of the Riverbend Hall. This is a Blue Note Classic reissue of the incredible Jimmy Smith Back at the Chicken Shack. I saw this in his jazz section. It had been on my Amazon want list for a while, so when I saw it in Billy's store, I just grabbed it. Really digging Jimmy Smith lately. I showed his album Prayer Meeting, I think in the last video or the one before. His music, it's jazz, it's organ jazz, but it's also got, some funk elements to it. You can kind of hear what would come later that he would influence. Great record, great sounding record. And for the price, for what you get, these are incredible deals. So if you're thinking of dipping your toe into the Blue Note catalog, starting with any of the classic series like these is a really great place to start. They're well priced, they're well produced, they sound great, and everyone is happy. So there you go. Then the Best of Sade is the next album. I've got her first 2 albums on vinyl, and I really couldn't find anything else by her in the wild, and or for a good price, I should say. For some reason her albums tend to run high. So I just bit the bullet and I bought the Greatest Hits. It's a double album, and I just hit myself in the face with it. And it's got, pretty much everything you need when it comes to Sade. And it was, it's smooth jazz for the most part, but her voice is so silky and smooth too that it just kind of carries you along, which is what I love about music. So well worth the, if you can find this, the Best of Sade. I like it. Then I've got, when it comes to Neil Young, his archive series is like just instant money for Neil when it comes to acoustic stuff, because not only do I have Young Shakespeare, which was released earlier this year, I've got Live at the Cellar Door, I've got Live at the Fillmore East. The only one I'm missing from this time period is Live at Massey Hall, which is, I want to get someday. And I know that's generally regarded as, the best of these type of recordings. But this is Neil Young live at Carnegie Hall, solo acoustic, just like the other albums I mentioned. This came out, or this was recorded, I should say, in 1970? Yeah, December 4th, 1970. So, yeah, it's pretty much the same song list as, most of the other records that I mentioned. It's pretty much the same sound, but I'm a sucker for this stuff. So I bought it, and I didn't really think twice. That's how much of a fan of Neil I am, especially these archive records. So what can I say? I'm weak. And last but not least, there were a couple other records I got from Riverbend that I haven't listened to yet. That will more than likely show up in the next video, whenever that will come